Welcome to Sylvia Global Radio. You're listening to Devoted Moms with Tasha and Regina, an hour of engaging conversation for women who embrace the career of being a full-time mom.
In our program, and I see that we've been joined by our phenomenal father, Andrew. Andrew, how are you?
Fine. How are you, Regina?
I'm good. So, thank you for joining us today. Tasha just spent a little bit and I just spent a little time catching up on Mother's Day. And one of the reasons that we invited, and I think we had you on a few months ago, but we realized that we need to only have one guest at a time.
Really?
You are our lesson for that. Because we tried to have three passionate fathers on at the same time, and that didn't work too well. So now you are... I'm sorry, say that again.
I guess the passion was just overlapping, huh?
It was overwhelming the airways, clearly. It was. So I guess one of the things that we wanted to hear is we talk a lot to devoted moms around the world about how do we want to be better parents and how we want to do things maybe a little bit differently than how we were parented. But we also have to recognize that we will not, that it's enhanced if we also have phenomenal fathers with us. And so I know that you're a phenomenal father. And so can you tell us just a little bit about you as a father?
Well, yes. I have three kids. The oldest is just turned 21. She's in college.
Oh, wow.
She has one more year. She has a 4.0 grade point average and doing very well. And I think that, both parents are input in keeping her focused and making sure that, she has the things she needs for to succeed in life and just and for schooling also. My next oldest is Andre. He's going to college this year.
Oh my gosh.
And
I know.
What?
I know they are going so fast.
Oh.
My baby is 14 now. So it has been a task to keep everybody on track, but I mean, the work now is pretty much easy because when you build that foundation when they're kids, I mean, it's not as hard because they know what to expect, they know what to do, and everything's just much easier now.
Oh, you make it sound so simple.
Pretty much it is. It's so simple.
So,
Wow.
okay, so thinking about, I remember when Danielle was maybe about 3 or 4 when I first met her, and Dre was just a little cute fat baby running around. And Deja had not come on the scene yet. And so I think that first, let's go with your oldest. What would you share with moms in relation to how to let fathers parent a girl child so that when they do hit college age, they're focused enough to have a 4.0, which is incredible.
Right.
What would you tell mothers? How do we either get out the way or get in the way? What should we do?
Well, a lot of things, especially for a girl, because the father-daughter relationship, the dynamic is just completely different. So, but first, the mothers have to trust the fathers to know and know what to tell the daughters because they do know, and a daughter would take things a whole lot different from their fathers than their mothers.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be good or bad, but I just know it's true. They receive information differently, and sometimes as a mom, you just have to step back and say, well, I'll let daddy have this. And also, I mean, the dad has to want to take that role in his child's life, and some people shy away from it, but I mean, it's fun for me. I enjoy it.
Yeah. I've heard you even say, particularly about each of your children, I think you also took time to figure out where their strengths are, but also where their challenges. Like I've heard you refer to Danielle as really needing to help her stay focused.
Right.
And so, how would you suggest that you start to understand your kid like that? Because you had identified her not necessarily as a leader when she was younger.
Completely. Well, yes, that's all about knowing your kids and paying attention to, and that comes from also when they're younger also. You just pay attention to who they are, the things they like, and you do have to identify their strengths and give them advice based on those things that you have observed from them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where parenting comes from.
That is true.
If your child wants to be a rocket scientist and you know that, and you hadn't paid any attention, and hey, your child may be a better lawyer, you should know these things about your child.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. So Tiger, on the second child, your one and only boy.
Yes.
And people ask me this a lot, and you definitely have to raise your kids differently. I think, like you said, especially when they have different personalities and different strengths, but especially if they're different genders. So, what are some of the kind of noticeable things that you've done differently with your son that are different than that you've done with your daughters?
It has been noticeable, and trust me, I did get some flack from it because, you all know this, that guys are just a whole lot different, and is not as much of a guy can make as a kid the same mistake a girl makes and not get punished, or there are less stipulations that come with that mistake. So, and you have to let the girls know that, hey, you can't make this mistake, and therefore you have to keep them a little closer. I mean, as far as raising a boy, I mean, you can give them a little more leeway, but still you have to let them know the boundaries also, because it's easy to fall into the friend relationship, especially, for a guy and having his boy. It's easy to fall into a friend relationship and to slip off on the parenting. But, I mean, you just have to identify and set those boundaries with them.
Right. That's true. So are there any like, I guess, things that you do just with him for your bonding experiences that you feel that, fathers and sons should do, just the two of you?
All the time, because of course I enjoy sports. He does also, so we use that for bonding. We play a lot of sports together. We hang out. We watch games together. We haven't had that first beer yet together. He's not old enough.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
We have not yet.
Right.
But we talk about girls, relationships. I mean, life in general, and as far as what he should expect out of the world. I mean, just going to a job interview, how to interview, what to expect. And now, how kids are so unkept now, you have to tell them, hey, no matter how smart you may be, how much of a gentleman you may be, sometimes your appearance is the first thing, the easiest thing to get out of the way. You could always be neat.
Mm-hmm.
You control the
Right. You know what? Now, Andrew, Andrew, one of the things that I do know that you allowed Dre to do too was, I mean, you're a huge basketball fan. You played basketball and you still do. But at some point, Dre decided he wanted to play another sport. And so, you know, how did you accept that?
Well, it was hard for me at first because his talent is in basketball. But like you said, learning it, when you do know your child, I know that he's a little lazy. He loves basketball, but a lot of people don't realize that to play a sport like that is 80% preparation and only 20% playing. Mm-hmm. And people only see the playing part of it and the workouts, the getting in shape, the practicing. He didn't like. So I gravitated towards baseball, which his first time, which that tells me how, I mean, when you put your mind to something that, I mean, he went an entire season and never struck out and had never played baseball before.
Oh.
So,
wow. Hey, Michael Jordan might need to give.
So when he was able to excel that, and it.
just joking.
Baseball is that you don't have to be really, really in shape for, and he had a lot of fun with it. I mean, it's got him some scholarship money, so I mean, he's doing well with it.
Wow.
Okay. So, you know, so I think that you also have been really good just over the years. Andrew and I go way back, and Tasha goes just as far back with us. But one of the things I also have noticed that in parenting, even your girls, but also particularly Dre, you involved your dad as part of your support system, and I think he goes and spends summers, you know, working with your dad and got fired one time from your dad. Can you tell us about, tell Devoted Moms about that? Or that was you?
That was me that that was me that got fired for working with my dad. And that parenting taught me what to expect out of life. And when I do get a job on my own out in the world, I'll tell you the story. Of course, my dad hired me. He wasn't my direct supervisor, but he's over the entire operation. So, of course, I rode to work with him every day. So one morning we got up. He's like, "You want breakfast?" I was like, "Sure, let's stop and get breakfast." So we stopped, had a good time, had breakfast. He stopped at the bank, did some other stuff, and we just hung out. I got to work. About 10 minutes later, he called me to his office. I'm like, "Okay, how you doing?" He was like, "I need you to sign this sheet." And I looked at it, and he wrote me up. And why am I getting why are you writing me up? And it's like, "Because you were late for work." And I'm like, "Well, I wrote you." He said, "Well, it doesn't matter. Did you call your supervisor and let them know you were going to be late?" So that's a no call, no show, and I got fired from it.
But you did so tell Andre that story, though, right?
Oh yeah, he knows all about it. We sit and laugh about it now, but I mean, it taught me a lesson that I mean, I can favoritism when I went into work for him, and matter of fact, I got treated to a higher standard than anybody else there. But yes, as far as parents, their grandparents being involved, and I think there's an old saying that it takes a village to raise a child, and I mean, in communities, neighbors and everybody looking out for the best interests of the children because they are our future. And yeah, my parents were involved.
Okay, so now to I know the twinkle in your eye. Not that your other kids aren't, but just I think she's a little bit more challenging and actually more like you. Deja is 14 now, which freaks me out. It just makes me feel very old.
Yeah.
And it also makes me look at my girls and say, oh my goodness, they're going to be 14 in like 2 days. So how is it different? One, she's the baby, she's the girl, she's your, I suppose she's your youngest and the last of your legacy in that way. But who knows? But for right now, she is. So what would you how would you express your relationship with her? And again, how, you know, mommies can dote on the baby, you know, this is my last baby, and so she's just a baby. How do you balance that out with also holding those same standards that you have for your other two?
Well, it is hard, and plus her growing up and see the things that her brother and sister went through. Boy, she is a fast learner because she knows what not to do. I mean, immediately. She's not doing anything to jeopardize, you know, us getting mad at her. So that part has been a lot easier. And she hardly ever gets in trouble. And I'm so blessed for that. And she's mannerable. I mean, she's just very respectful.
Cool.
Wow, that's awesome. And so she is going to be your last one, Andrew?
She is, has been. Thanks a lot for that one.
You forgot your famous, that's it, that's all. Great.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, Andrew, I know that you you know, took time out from your busy day to join us. And so I just wonder if you have some words to share, again, with devoted moms that can help to support phenomenal fathers like yourself. We've got people listening from all over the world. And so if you can just share maybe one thing that you want people to walk away with understanding.
The one thing I would like to say for all parents, be very passionate and supportive for your kids, and also be fair. I see a lot of times where people are just too supportive of their kids when their kids are in the wrong, and they still are, you know, supporting and on their kid's side. And that's when I think, when I say a community, a village to raise a child, you have to be very fair and just love them, and when they're wrong, let them know they're wrong. And you also have to be when you have that discipline in place, you have to stand on it and actually follow through with any punishments, or if I say I'm gonna take something away, actually do it. Because kids pick up on it fast. If you don't follow through, no matter what it is, I mean, they pick up on it.
That's true.
Okay. All right.
That's very true.
Yeah. Tasha, do you have any burning questions for Andrew before we let him go?
You know, I think, I don't know if I have any questions, but I think, you know, I was watching actually a show the other day that was talking about fatherless sons. And, you know, what was really key and what I really picked up from you today is the things that were handed down to you from your father, that you were able to be there for your son and for your children in the way that was patterned for you. And so I really encourage some of the devoted moms and devoted dads that are listening, you know, if you're not in your child's life, you know, just the conversation that we've had with Andrew today, with just some of his stories and things that we've learned from him or were able to laugh about. But at the core of it, he he is patterning, what it is to be a father, what it is to be a husband, what it is to be a man for his son. And he learned that same thing from his father. And so I think that was the biggest takeaway that I took from the show that I watched the other day is how lost men, even in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, still kind of felt a hole that they still felt because they didn't have that father figure. They didn't have that person that they could look and see that how am I supposed to be in this situation? How am I supposed to react in that situation? What am I going to look like when I get older? These are things that were still kind of, painful parts of their life. And so that's another reason too why Devoted Moms, we wanted to showcase these phenomenal fathers every few weeks, and just give you an example of how it passes down and how it's so huge and how it makes such a huge difference in how men operate in their adulthood. So just very grateful to have you on the show with us today. Not just sharing about how you are there for your children, but how the community that you've created is there for your children, and it's very important. And if you're not in your child's life, any devoted men that are listening, if you're not in your child's life the way you want to be, it's not too late. You can start today. You can even take some of the little nuggets that you learned from Andrew today and start them with your own children. It's never, that's another thing I learned from the show. It's never too late, and your children are never too old.
Right. Yeah. I was having a hard time because I know Andrea's Tiger. So because we're about to sign off, I'm just going to keep it simple. Tiger, I just want to thank you for, I think for also setting the standard as, you were a parent before I was, and you really did help to set a standard of how I expected my children to be parent-fathered. And so I often think about some of the sacrifices that you've made, intentional and purposeful, because you wanted to be there for your kids. And so I just want to give you big respect on that. Much love. And thank you for taking some time out today to talk to people all over the world. And so maybe we'll have you back on when we get to the next segment of the 14-year-old actually isn't as sweet as you thought she was. And it's funny because her name is Deja, and I want to know if you're going to go through a deja vu moment with her at some point in her life. So
thanks a lot for having me. And I have one more question. Are there any more kids in your future?
All the kids in Tasha's future, is undeterminable. The kids in my future call me Gigi, not Mommy. I have a designation that precludes any need for additional stretch marks and morning sickness. So,
right.
So we want to thank Sylvia Global TV for allowing us the opportunity to talk with Devoted Moms, but also to have Andrew on and have that phenomenal father perspective, because again, we just feel like it's really important that we surround our children with as many resources and love. And I love the way he said, be very passionate with your children. And so we thank you so much for that. So Andrew, thank you, and we'll be talking soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.